That's a good ball for Peter Weir. Now Aberdeen with McGee making the break and Hewitt waiting in the middle. Hewitt!
The Full-Time Review Show is brought to you and supported by Saltire Energy, who would like to wish all ABTV viewers a very happy new year. As with everybody at Craig International, with 10 offices all around the world, they celebrated as 2025 hit the calendar. Everybody at Craig International would also like to wish all watching this channel a very happy new year. As with everybody at Steadfast Scotland, who have passed on their very best wishes for a prosperous 2025 to all ABTV viewers. Guys, thank you so much for your continued support. These were the scenes before the game yesterday, before the snow came down. I know that conditions outside Pittodrie were slightly treacherous, but it was fairly sunny before we kicked off yesterday. But once again, we just couldn't get over the line. And we went down to a surprising 2-1 defeat against Ross County. It's now 9 games without a win. It's now 4 successive defeats. And yesterday was as difficult as they came. It means this. So unfortunately, we continue now to slip down the table. We're now in 4th position after Dundee United's late win in the Dundee Derby yesterday at Dens Park. That's what it is now. 34 points each. We've also lost further traction on Rangers as well. It's becoming a serious concern. Hi everybody, a very warm welcome to Ali Beg ABTV this Friday night. So this is the review show. We're going to look back on the Ross County game, and I'm going to combine 2 shows in one here. So we're also going to look ahead to the Motherwell game on Sunday, because I'm travelling to London for a few days tomorrow. So I just thought that we would combine both shows today. We've got a lot to talk about, and I'm expecting a very busy show tonight, so I'm not going to put any time scale on it. We'll get to the Motherwell game a little bit later, but we'll take care of the Ross County game first of all. Now, unfortunately, Andrew Budge can't be with us tonight because Andrew is currently travelling overseas. So he's not going to be back until after the Motherwell game. So I'm hoping to sort of bring him back on Monday for the review show. So I've not put any analytical stuff together for you because, to be honest with you, I didn't think there was any point. Because to me, it was glaringly obvious where our problems are mounting. So what I've done is I've written down a few notes. And I'm kind of hoping that you're singing from the same hymn sheet. It was so interesting today to read all your thoughts about where you think it's going wrong with us at the moment. Because even though we have to continue to trust in the process, it's becoming difficult, and it's becoming more difficult, I think. First and foremost, I would like to say that in no way, shape or form do I lay any blame at the manager's feet. None whatsoever. I think the players have got to take a long, hard look at themselves. We cannot keep chopping and changing managers, and I cannot believe that some are calling for Yumi's head already. With the greatest respect, I just think it's an absolute nonsense. And Yumi is going to need time to implement his own style and bring in his own players who I think can play the style of football that he wants us to play. Now, I mean this with the greatest respect to our current squad, but I don't think he's got the players in that squad to play the type of football that he wants. So, I know this is going to sound rather scathing, and I certainly don't mean any disrespect, but I was extremely disappointed by some of the performances yesterday. Conditions in the first half didn't help, I get that, but at the end of the day, there were 2 teams on the pitch, and 2 teams had to deal with the conditions, And I felt that Ross County dealt with it an awful lot better than we did. Second half, I thought we did much better. Duke hitting the bar, so unlucky. Kevin Nisbet with 2 great chances. On another day, with a little bit of more luck, we would have come away with a win. Reverse that game to the beginning of the season, we probably would have won that game. That's what makes it even more galling for me. Their first goal was an absolute worldie. Can't take anything away from the boy. It was absolutely sensational. The second goal, as much of it for me was a fluke, I think he meant it as a cross, more than a curling effort into the top corner. Luck goes against us. But how we defended that, again, was criminal. So let me give you some points just to set us up for tonight. So it is becoming obvious to me, and I don't know what you think at home, that I do think that the opposition know how to play us now. And what they're doing is, and we said this during the watch-along show yesterday, thank you, by the way, for coming on, because the viewing figures for that blew my mind. And I really hope you enjoyed it, so thank you for coming on. It was absolutely brilliant. At one point, we had over 150 of you watching. I said, while I was watching the game, their tactic today is to press us high. It's exactly what they did. I don't think we've got the players to play the ball out from the back. I think what it's doing is it's setting in a panic mode. Because we can pass it around, we can go square, we can go backwards, but ultimately what's happening is, because of their press, we're being forced to punt the ball long. And this is where the goal came from, their second goal. So if you watch the goal back, Angus MacDonald plays the ball out to Nicky Devlin on the right-hand side. He's quite tight to the touchline. He's closed down so quickly that all he's forced to do is try and punt the ball forward, which was blocked. Ross County picked up the second ball, they played in Chilvers, off he went and scored. The fact that we did not defend that cross was just appalling. Angus MacDonald didn't do enough. There were 3 players all within a yard of the boy, and none of them put in a telling tackle. None of them put in any sort of challenge to stop what was going to be a cross. I felt that our play yesterday, it was continually disrupted. We just never got going, I didn't think. And again, I think that's showing the real weaknesses in our side. And I think it's how teams are now starting to see how we play. I don't think that we had the players on the pitch yesterday to dig us out. I don't think we've got the players to dig us out of the current form that we're in, which I think is really worrying. When we needed a leader, I didn't feel there was a leader on that pitch yesterday. I don't think anybody took that game by the scruff of their neck and tried to take control of that game. And for me, that's worrying. So, come and tell me what you think. Before the game, the manager made 4 changes. He was forced into one. Dimitar Mitov has sustained a minor injury, which meant that Ross Duan had replaced him in goal. So Dimitar is going to be out for at least a month, the football club are speculating. Angus MacDonald came in for the suspended Rubicic. The skipper returned. He came in for the suspended Nielsen. And Duke, he returned to the starting 11. He replaced the suspended Ante Palaversa. Esther Sokla played up front, but unfortunately had to go off with what looked like a worrying hamstring injury. I'd also like to point out at this point that I thought the ground staff did an absolutely phenomenal job of clearing the pitch at half-time. Thanks to Paul Donaldson for sending me these pictures, and I'm sure you'll agree that they all absolutely did a fantastic job of making sure that the pitch was playable in the second half. Let's take you through the stats. So 65.3% of possession, which is actually quite a lot, I thought. 20 shots in total, of which 4 were on target. Ross County also had 4 on target. Passes in the final third, 115 to their 63. And touches in the opposite box, we had 38 to their 20. So at this juncture, just let me clear the timeline for you because I still have an awful lot to get in tonight's show. So what I want to do is just bear with me while I get everything in. And then I can set the rest of the show up for you. So just bear with me a second. Okay, so there's that. I just want to get all the Motherwell stuff in for you because we've got quite a bit to look at for the Motherwell game. And there's the stats. That's in as well. I will get to your comments because I know there's an awful lot of you already on tonight watching, and I am going to get through as many of your comments as I possibly can, so just bear with me. I'm also going to try and predict the team for Motherwell. I'm going to make a few changes for that. Okay, so that's everything in for just now. Right, so this is what the manager said after yesterday's defeat. I am the manager. I'm responsible for the team and how we play. We are on a journey to be that team we want to be in the future, being consistent with intensity and high standards. The first half today, we took a step back. Second half, we were better. We got the momentum and then they score. It's not easy, especially when you're on this run. The stress that comes too. We must not get panicked and we must try and remain calm. So he's right. We have to try and stay calm, as difficult as it is at this moment in time. I don't think we should overly panic, but it is becoming seriously worrying that we just cannot buy any points at the moment. So let me get you on. Okay, so Gordon Keith Ritchie says, good evening all. Once again, we were poor. It seems teams are finding us out. We probably overachieved at the start and we need to put this poor run to bed and get points on board as soon as possible. John Grant says, hi all. Another poor performance, especially in the first half. Our defence just concede too many goals. There is not one of them that looks like a competent defender, but we have no options. Hugh Burns said, on another day, with Nisbet with the shooting boots on, we win the game. John Grant is suggesting that we're badly missing Bojan's goals from last season. So Hugh Burns came on. Hugh, I'm sorry, but as I just mentioned at the top of the show, unfortunately, Andrew can't be with us tonight, but hopefully we'll get him back for the Motherwell review show. John Grant says, I don't like McGrath and Clarkson in the same team, as we're too lightweight in midfield with them. Hugh Burns says, Mackenzie and McGrath have both checked out. Poor. I'd get rid of them now if possible. Scottish Man Cave says, I got a bit of abuse on social media about this, but it's time for a complete clear out. Fed up of the same players getting managers sacked. Folk need to back the manager and stop for him to be calling for him to be sacked. Colin Gale says, the county keeper made a few good saves and Duke hit the bar. The opening goal was just one of those things, and I don't think the player meant it for the second. First half conditions were awful. Colin Gale says, be prepared as the next 3 games are going to be tough until we get some additions. Patience, fellow dandies, he's asking for. So let's just remind ourselves. So Motherwell, next on Sunday, 2:30 kickoff at Fir Park. Then the following Sunday, the 12th, we're at home to Hearts, who beat Motherwell yesterday. Then on the Wednesday, we've got a very difficult trip to Ibrox to play Rangers, who obviously came away with a rather surprising 3-0 win yesterday in the Glasgow Derby. And then on Saturday the 18th, we travel to Elgin to play in the Scottish Cup. So we've got some very, very tricky games coming up. Hugh Burns is suggesting that Clarkson, Mackenzie, Shinnie, Duke have all got Goodwin, Barry and Warnock the sack. Scottish Man Cave says, yeah, we can't keep changing managers all the time. It's the players that are letting him down. Tactics or not, the players are letting the manager down. John Grant said, I thought if JT had some new faces lined up, they would be signing. But after hearing him speak yesterday, there sounded like there's some coming in soon. Hugh Burns is suggesting that Leighton Clarkson just flatters to deceive way too often. Sorry, John is suggesting that when the manager was speaking that nobody is coming in. Andy B says, we were clearly overachieving at the start. A few players being made complete scapegoats for recent results. Colin Gale says, I've not heard anything, but could there be some unrest in the camp? Just posing the question. Certain things can affect a team. I thought it was quite interesting with Leighton Clarkson's post-match interview yesterday, where he looked absolutely devastated, the boy. I was pleased to hear him say that he's got to do more when it comes to getting crosses into the box, to providing ammunition for the strikers. It was also interesting to hear that he said there were a few raised voices in the dressing room yesterday. And to be honest with you, so there should be. Hugh, I don't mean any disrespect about your comments the other day, and I'm certainly not meaning to shoot you down in flames. Respectfully, I just disagree with what you're saying, that's all. But listen, thank you for coming on, and thank you for putting across your points. It's absolutely no problem at all. You are more than welcome to your point. Scottish Man Cave says, it's almost like the problem at Man United. The same players getting managers sacked, dating back to Jose. Neil's on, wishing everybody a good evening. Scott Bowie says, the players who let us down last season, who can't be too surprised they're at it again. A big overhaul, but it won't be sorted in this transfer window. Neil says, like I said, the players that want away, brush them out, and the ones that want to stay, push on. The buzz is gone for now, and too much negativity around the place. Andy Wright is on, wishing everyone a good evening. Hugh Clark says, Jimmy is still the answer. He needs time. Happy New Year to fellow sheeps, he says. Johnny Wilson says, I think Yimmy is far too rigid with his setup. Teams have sussed us out and there's no plan B. Also, McGrath has down tools. I have to be honest, and again, I don't mean to dig the dude out. I had a bit of a pop at him yesterday because he was really frustrating me, but I cannot understand why he's getting a starting berth at the moment. He hasn't kicked a ball in weeks, and I'm worried about that. Scott Bowie said, all these things we were doing early season, severely lacking. No press, no closing down, evident at both goals yesterday, even though it was a wonder strike for their first, still playing like statues. If you follow the boy, what's he called? JJ Bull on X, football analyst. He's absolutely brilliant. He's done a really interesting thread today. If you go and have a look at it, about where he thinks things are going wrong for us at the moment. And he talks about energy and he talks about the press, where it's currently very much lacking with us at the moment, with games coming in quick succession. And it's very, very interesting what he says. If you get a chance, check it out. JJ Bull on X. Ewan Sutherland says, we looked a far better team when Morris came on. He added pace and decent crosses as well as work rate. It is beyond baffling why this guy is getting so little game time. I have to say, Ewan, I completely agree with you. I thought when Shading came on, he looked dangerous every time he got the ball. And what I also liked was the fact that, and again, this is what I don't understand what the manager's doing here, again, with the greatest respect. He started Toppy on the right. For me, Toppy was completely anonymous during the first 45 minutes, making mistake after mistake after mistake. He got switched to the left in the second half, and all of a sudden, he's a completely different player. And I thought he was fantastic in the last 20 minutes or so, creating chances, taking on his men. He put in 2 or 3 brilliant crosses yesterday, particularly for Nisbet. So for me, Shading to start on the right, Toppy on the left, or Shading to come on as an impact sub. I've predicted my team lineup for Motherwell, which I'll bring to you in just a moment. Scott Robertson said he's lost for words. At home against a side assembled for literally next to nothing, and we produce a performance like that. JT has to own that as well, because there's a lack of a plan B at the moment. If it's not working, change it. Sheep on Fire quite simply says, we just need to get rid of the players that don't want to be here. John Moore's on. He's wishing everybody a good evening. Had to give up the watch-along show. It's deja vu from the last few games and the last few seasons. Jimmy can turn it about, though. John Moore says, we need a large overhaul of players. Andrew says, watching the highlights, it's no exaggeration to say we should have scored 5 goals. Such fine margins. that were going for us earlier in the season, hoping for several quality signings this month. Graham Klein says, we've got to remember it's a work in progress. He's had one transfer window with limited incoming, playing a tactic most were not taken into play. The players are just showing that they're not up for it. Stuart Malcolm says, quite simply not good enough. I genuinely can't see where the next few points are coming from, never mind a win. VK Boyd, he says, sitting there thinking, I would have bagged 3 goals in that game. How do 1% govern 99%? Says, Morris, the only player who got pass marks. Hugh Clark is suggesting that he thinks there's something wrong in the dressing room at the moment. George Iron says, hi Ali, in Jimmy we trust, he says. Andy Wright says, has anyone noticed when we defend corners, we don't bring 2 across to match up, and they have a simple cross every time. James Jappy says, took 45 seconds for our first pass back, and it nearly cost us a goal. Hugh Byrne says, nobody is calling for the manager's head, Ali, but why has he binned certain elements of our identity? The press, for one. Totally agree, Hugh. We're not pressing at all at the moment. We're not doing half of the really good things that we were doing at the beginning of the season. The overlapping, the cutbacks, the balls into the box, all of this. We're not doing it anymore. We keep saying it time and time again. We're just not doing it. John Robertson said, a difficult defeat to take. I thought after getting back on level terms, we would go on to win the 3 points. How wrong could I be? I would love to see Morris on the right, Keskin on the left, and Duke as our centre forward. Matthew Cool says, players need to step up. Polvara and Palaversa have to start together on Sunday. Michael Taylor says, evening Ali, hope you're well and not too hungover from yesterday's shambles of a match once again. Rising Sun says, the early results flattered us. We huffed and puffed, but got the breaks. We need to get these breaks again, and then things will start turning around. Stuart Hepburn says, the couple of passes in our defence just before the second goal, dearie me. Right, so that's, we'll keep your comments coming in, but let's turn our attentions now to the Motherwell game on Sunday. So don't forget, 2:30 kickoff in Fair Park. It's live on Premier Sports as well. I'm going to predict the team news for you. Here we go. Right, tell me what you think. So Ross will stay in goal. Obviously. It's looking like it will be for at least the next 4 weeks or so. So this is what I've done. I've kept in Nicky, but I've dropped Angus because Slobodan will return. I've stuck with Gavin and I've stuck with Jack. I think Nielsen will return. And I think the skipper will retain his place. So I'm not sure that Ante or Dante will play. Sorry, that should be the other way around. So I've gone with Toppy on the left, Duke on the right, Leighton Clarkson through the middle. I'm dropping Jamie McGrath. Sorry, sorry guys, that's not the team. Sorry. Sorry folks, I've got the wrong team there. That's not the team that I was looking for. So what's going to happen is I think that Kevin will start up front. Sorry about that, that's really thrown me. Kevin will start the game up front, I think. Leighton will play through the middle. And I think that Shaden will start on the right. And I think that Toppy will start on the left. That's what I think. But I do think that Nielsen and Shinnie will start the game against Motherwell. I don't know why. I just have a feeling that's what the boss will do. These are your match stats ahead of the game. Aberdeen are unbeaten against Motherwell in their past 7 league games, with our last defeat coming in August 2002. The Dons are also unbeaten in their past 5 matches at Fair Park, with our last league defeat there coming in September 2021. And did you know that Aberdeen are only 1 goal away from scoring their 200th league goal at Fair Park? The referee is Nick Walsh, and the man on VAR is Gavin Duncan. This is what Yimi said ahead of this game. We have to refocus and try to be better. When you work in this business as a manager or a player, You have to be really strong in your mentality because there's always pressure. When you're doing really well, your feet have to stay on the ground so you don't lose the direction. And when it's really, really tough, you can't get beaten down. You have to stay strong and believe in what you're actually doing. He went on to say, for me, nothing has changed from the long-term process, and we know what we want to execute to get us there. Motherwell, in the last 6 games, won 2, drawn 2, lost 2. They're missing 2 or 3 key players from the game as well. And I know it was fine margins against Hearts, but I think they're going to give us a really, really difficult game on Sunday. And what I'm worried about more than anything else is confidence levels. And I just hope that Yimi sets us up in a way that they don't overly press us and we don't fall into the trap that we've been currently falling into. That's my biggest fear. Let's get back to you guys. Lots of you on. I'll do my best to try and get through most of your comments. Paul Hannon's here. Hi, Paul. He says, evening, Ali and fellow dandies. He had a bit of a car incident yesterday on the way home, but thankfully Paul's absolutely fine, as is his friend. So thanks for letting me know, Paul, and I'm glad that you're absolutely fine. Ewan Turk says, I'd be starting Dante and Ante in the centre of midfield tomorrow. Kaiser said, I can see this season being another write-off come February. John Stewart's hoping that the young lad should be given a game. Kaiser says, one thing guaranteed for the Motherwell game is that Palaversa will be on the bench as usual. Kaiser's asking, is Richard Jensen any worse than Malloy, Rubicic and McDonald? Currently away on loan, don't forget. Kaiser says that we're without question the worst team in the league. I can see us being down to 6th in the league in a week or 2. Again, if you go back to JJ Bull's thread on X, he's looked at My Scout, which is an analytical system that a lot of football clubs use these days. And they've got like a sort of a points gained. No, it's not a points gained. What is it now? It's like a points predicted kind of table. And we're way down, like way down. And it's so worrying. Everything in our stats at the moment, in terms of XG and all that kind of stuff, is way down. It's really, really worrying. David Gold, Rally Vids, says, on the whole, our set pieces have been absolutely honking. Oh my God, I was screaming yesterday watching the game about beating the first man. Hugh Burns says, Shady Mo needs to start games. He shouldn't just be an impact sub. Mark Davidson says, we desperately need a plan B. We certainly need at least a central defender, a central midfielder, and another striker. Keith McDonald says, I also don't get why Shady Mo isn't getting longer. When he comes on, he's giving it a good go. Scottish Man Cave says, just a thought. Historically, Aberdeen teams have been knackered by December. What's going on in our fitness department? Barry Cole says, we would have won that game by 3 or 5 had we had a decent striker. Rod Cow says, I think young Dante has made a real effort when he's come on recently. I'd like to see a Shinnie, Palaversa and Dante trio in midfield to be given an opportunity. Hugh Burns says, and it's a good point, Hugh, I'm glad you brought it up. He says, taking my criticism of McGrath out of the equation, he took 2 horrendous blows to the head yesterday. It was horrible. You're absolutely right, Hugh, he did. And fair play to the boy, because he got up. The first one in particular was a really nasty looking one. And don't forget that he only had minor surgery on the head knock that he took against Ross County away. So, in the end, he got taken off, which I'm hoping was just precautionary more than tactically. Look, as much as I've been digging him out recently, I absolutely hope the boy's okay. Musical Box says it was almost like the players started the season working really hard, but they've gradually slowed down and done less and less. Gregor Reed says we need to have formation that works for each player. Good managers make better players. Sorry, good managers make players better. Roddy Keenan, is on. He says, evening everyone, definitely need a finisher. Even when on that winning run that seems so long ago now, the front players were missing lots of good chances. Now it seems they're missing all of them. So many of you asking you about Fletcher Boyd. Where is he? Gregor Reed said, if Shinnie and Nielsen start, we're finished. Gregor, I'm totally with you. I just have a feeling. This is, by the way, this is not the team that I'm hoping for. This is the team I think the manager will play. And I hope I'm completely wrong. John Stewart said, boys should be getting a game. James Jappy says, I think Motherwell will have a go at us, but we've got to match them. No walking about by anybody. Grim Finlayter says, I think the team was playing above its level and now we're seeing a truer reflection, although we should be better, he says. Need 6 or 7 players. Get rid of the same group that got Goodwin and Robson the sack. Okay. Right. I'm going to put this all to one side for just now because I want to do a bit of reminiscing. And I want to see how many of you remember this. This happened on this day back in 1984. So I know that some of you won't, but I'd be so interested to see how many of you do remember this day. So Aberdeen's game with St Johnstone is abandoned at half-time due to heavy snowfall. Thousands of fans struggled to get home with a blackout hitting the city and the outside regions. Trust me, because I was at the game, we were 3-0 up at half-time. And I've said this many, many times before. That first half display, if I remember correctly, Dougie Bell scored an absolute worldie from about 30 yards, straight into the top corner. It was one of the most sensational performances by any Aberdeen team that I've ever seen. Aberdeen absolutely blew St Johnstone away in that first half. It was incredible. What a performance it was. And then all of a sudden, the snow started to come down. And the pitch got covered very, very quickly. I was in the paddock that day with my pal Angus. And my parents were in the south stand with my brother. And all of a sudden, Pittodrie went black. Completely dark. Few sort of nervous cheers went up, and then the power got restored, but the pitch got whiter and whiter and whiter, and then eventually we saw, it was Brian McGinley was the referee that day, and he came out, took a look, rolled the ball about a few times, the power went out again, and that's when the decision was made to cancel the game or abandon the game. So the game got abandoned at half-time. And I can tell you quite categorically, this is no word of a lie, the next 20 minutes was probably the scariest 20 minutes of my childhood. To try and get back to my parents' car with Angus across the golf links. Oh my God. You know the movie The Day After Tomorrow, the Hollywood movie The Day After Tomorrow? It's a little bit like that. It was unbelievable. I remember coming out of the paddock and turning the corner onto Pittodrie Street and the wind just punching me in the face. I couldn't believe it. It was unbelievable. Somehow we managed to get ourselves across the golf links, but we had to take shelter in, what do you call those bushes? Are they coarse bushes or something like that? I can't remember. That are sort of strategically placed just before you reach the hill, before you have to climb up to the beachfront. And I just remember taking shelter in these bushes with Angus, being absolutely petrified. And then I remember climbing on my hands and my knees up the embankment and getting to the top and almost getting blown over by the wind. And I couldn't see, I was petrified, I was so scared. And the next thing I remember is all of a sudden this hand came out of nowhere, grabbed me, guided me along. It was my dad, and threw me into the car. Oh my God, it was petrifying. It took us about 2 hours to get back to Newborough. Because in 1984, it was only a single track back up the road. It was before the highway got built. We were in complete blackout for days and days and days, as was most of the city and the region, as I said. And what's also interesting about that was, I remember Billy Stark told me that he had to go, he was at the game, and he had to travel to Glasgow because he had to have a hip operation, and it took him 4 hours to get to Glasgow. 4! Gridlock all the way down the road. And Alan Lyons, who used to be a trainee with Aberdeen, who then went on to play professionally, played for St Johnstone that day, and he told me that they got back onto the team bus to go down to Perth. And as the bus was reversing out of the car park, the bus driver didn't see a pillar and smashed straight into the pillar and completely smashed the back window of the St Johnstone bus, which meant that the bus travelled all the way back to Perth in those conditions without a back window. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? Sorry, I just need to text my little boy to tell him that I'm coming home. So if you remember it, I'm sure it's a day you'll never ever forget. It was unbelievable. Oh my God. Windbushes, that's the one. Windbushes. Yeah. David Gold, thanks mate. Windbushes, that's the one. If you're a chuchter like me. Hugh Burns remembers it. Kevin Watt remembers it as well. It was absolutely Baltic. So Andrew Budge has come on, so he's completely jet lagged because he's literally on the other side of the world, but he's just dropped us a little message. Andrew and I will be back on Monday to do the review of the Motherwell game. So he says, "Hi Ali, managed to catch some of the show as I'm jet lagged. Interesting poach match from Yimmy yesterday, referencing team building. I reckon he has now sussed out who aren't in his long-term plans." There you go. Stuart Malcolm was at that game as well. James Brown says, that 3rd of January 1984 game, I was supposed to be there, but still in bed with a heavy hangover. Oh my God. Hugh Burns says, I was at that game. Windscreen wipers failed on the way home, dinging it down. Oh my God. David Gall says, 6 months and 9 days before I was born. Brilliant. Thanks, mate. Making us all feel old. Right, guys, we're going to call it a night because we've done nearly 40 minutes. So thank you for coming on. Thank you for leaving all your comments, as always. It's fantastic to have you on. So this is part of the preview show. So as I said, I'm traveling to London tomorrow. I'm going to be in London for the next few days, visiting my brother and doing other bits and pieces in London as well. So I'm going to try and bring you the show on Monday. We will do the show. I'll be doing it from my brother's man cave. And we'll also try and bring you a preview show ahead of the next game against Hearts as well. And then, in fact, I'll probably bring that game from the studio because that game's on the Sunday and I get back on the Saturday. So just talking out aloud here. So take good care of yourselves. The very best of luck to the Dons on Sunday. Going to be watching from London. You'll probably hear me from London. And in fact, I'm actually travelling up to Aberdeen on Tuesday, but I'm literally only in town for the day. Coming up on the sleeper overnight from London, in town on the Tuesday, couple of bits and pieces, and then straight back on the return journey overnight on the Tuesday night. So you might see me kicking about. If you do, come and say hello. It'd be great to see you. Right, guys, take good care of yourselves, and I'll see you all very soon. Stand free.